The first time I saw Maria Rodriguez, she was sitting in the corner of her cell, knees pulled up to her chest, staring at nothing. I'm Jessica Torres. I've been a correctional officer at Riverside Prison for 3 years, and I've seen a lot of things that would surprise you. But Maria's silence was different. It was the kind of silence that screamed. It was a Tuesday morning when they brought her to C Block. I was doing my routine cell checks, clipboard in hand, when Officer Henderson stopped me in the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and somewhere down the corridor an inmate was singing off-key. Torres, heads up. We've got a new one in cell 23. Total nut job. Hasn't said a word since intake 6 months ago. I looked up from my clipboard. 6 months? Yeah. Been bounced around from county jail to medical observation and now here. Doctors cleared her. No physical reason she can't talk. She just won't. Henderson shrugged. Good luck with that one. I made my way to cell 23. Through the bars I could see her. 22 years old according to her file, but she looked younger. Small frame, dark hair hanging in front of her face, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on her body. Maria Rodriguez. Convicted of accessory to armed robbery. 3 to 5 years. Maria? I said softly. I'm Officer Torres. I'll be one of your COs here in C Block. Nothing. She didn't even look up. I dealt with difficult inmates before. The ones who cursed you out, threatened you, tested every boundary. But this was different. Maria wasn't being defiant. She was somewhere else entirely, trapped in a place I couldn't see. Over the next few days I watched her. During count she stood when told. During meals she ate mechanically, never looking at anyone. During rec time she sat alone in the corner of the yard while other inmates played cards or worked out. The other women in C Block had stopped trying to talk to her. Even the gang members left her alone. There was something about her silence that made people uncomfortable. She's been like this the whole time? I asked Dr. Patel, the prison psychologist, one afternoon in her office. Dr. Patel pulled up Maria's file on her computer. According to the reports from county, she spoke normally during her arrest and initial booking. Then something happened during her first week in custody. After that, complete selective mutism. What happened? No one knows. She won't tell anyone. Dr. Patel looked at me over her glasses. Why the interest, Jessica? I thought about how to answer. I don't know. Something about her. She doesn't belong here. None of them belong here, ideally. That's not what I mean. It's her eyes. When I look at her, I see terror. Dr. Patel closed the file. Be careful. Don't get too invested. Some people don't want to be saved. But I couldn't let it go. Maybe it was because Maria reminded me of my younger cousin, Sophia, who'd gone through her own trauma. Or maybe it was because everyone else had already given up on her. In prison, being invisible can be a death sentence. I started spending a few extra minutes at her cell each day. Not asking questions. Not demanding anything. Just being there. Morning, Maria. It's gonna be hot today. Make sure you drink water during rec time. Silence. The food's especially terrible today. Mystery meat Mondays, right? Nothing. My grandmother used to make these tamales. Man, I miss those. You ever have homemade tamales? Day after day, I talked to her like she was a person, not a problem to be solved. I told her about my day, about the weather, about anything except why she wasn't talking. The other officers thought I was wasting my time. You're talking to yourself, Torres? Officer Martinez laughed one day. Maybe. But at least I'm trying. 2 weeks in, something changed. I was doing evening rounds, and when I stopped at cell 23, Maria was standing at the bars. Not looking at me, but not curled up in her usual corner either. Progress. Hey, Maria, I said gently. She held something out through the bars. A piece of paper, folded small. My heart rate picked up as I took it. Maria's hand disappeared back into her cell immediately. I waited until I was in the break room to unfold it. The handwriting was small, careful, almost childlike. Thank you for treating me like a human. That was it. No explanation, no request. Just 7 words that broke my heart. The next morning, I brought her a fresh notebook and a pen during my rounds. Contraband, technically, without proper approval, but I logged it officially as a therapeutic tool. I slid it through the meal slot. For whenever you want to write something, I said. Maria picked up the notebook slowly, running her fingers over the cover. Then she looked at me. Really looked at me. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they were filled with something I recognized. Not just fear. Shame. Over the next week, notes started appearing. Short at first. Can I have extra soap? Thank you. The woman in cell 19 has been coughing all night. She needs medical. That last one surprised me. Maria was paying attention to others, caring about them even in her silence. I made sure the inmate in cell 19 got medical attention. Turned out she had pneumonia. Little did I know Maria's silence was protecting more than just herself. It was a Wednesday afternoon when everything shifted. I was escorting Maria back from her psych evaluation with Dr. Patel. We were walking down the corridor, just the two of us, when we passed a group of inmates being led the other direction by Officer Henderson. I noticed Maria's whole body tense up. One of the inmates, a woman named Carmen Vega, stared at Maria with an intensity that made my instincts flare. Carmen was mid-30s, serving 15 years for drug trafficking. Ran with the Serenas on the outside. "Hey mamita," Carmen called out, her voice syrupy sweet. "How you doing? Still keeping quiet? That's good. That's real good." Maria's hands were shaking. I positioned myself between them. "Keep moving, Vega," I said firmly. Carmen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just saying hello to my friend. We go way back, don't we, Maria?" After we got Maria back to her cell, I went straight to Henderson. "What's the connection between Rodriguez and Vega?" He shrugged. "No idea. Different cases, different crews." "Why?" "Just a feeling. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Carmen's smile, about Maria's fear, about 6 months of silence. I pulled up their files on the system at home, which was definitely against protocol, but something wasn't right. Maria's case file was thin. Accessory to armed robbery at a convenience store in East LA. Her boyfriend, Diego Mendoza, had been the primary. He gotten 8 years. Maria had been in the car. She'd cooperated with police initially, giving a statement. Then the statement had been recanted. Then silence. Carmen's file was thicker. Multiple arrests, connections to the Serenas gang, drug trafficking. I scrolled through her known associates and my blood ran cold. Diego Mendoza. He was listed as one of her distributors. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. This wasn't about Maria choosing silence. This was about survival. The next morning, I requested a meeting with Warden Marshall. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd worked her way up from CO. "Officer Torres. What can I do for you?" "I need to request protective custody for inmate Rodriguez in C Block." Marshall looked at me skeptically. "On what grounds?" "I believe she's being threatened by other inmates. Specifically Carmen Vega." "Do you have proof?" "Has Rodriguez filed a complaint?" "No, ma'am. She doesn't speak." "I'm aware of her condition. But I can't approve PC without a concrete threat or request from the inmate herself." Marshall folded her hands on her desk. "Is there anything else?" I left the office frustrated. The system was designed to protect inmates, but only if they could advocate for themselves. What about someone like Maria, trapped in silence? I spent my lunch break in my car, thinking. Then I drove to the county records office. I pulled Maria's original arrest statement from 6 months ago. I read it 3 times. In her initial interview, Maria had described the robbery. Diego had told her they were just going to the store. She didn't know he had a gun. When it happened, she panicked and stayed in the car. But then she said something that made my hands grip the paper tighter. "Diego works for some people. Scary people. He told me if I ever said anything about them, they'd hurt my little sister. Carmen knows where my family lives." The rest of the statement was redacted. The prosecutor's notes indicated the case had been complicated by witness intimidation. Maria had recanted everything the next day. Refused to testify against Diego. Took a plea deal. Now Maria was in the same prison as Carmen Vega. And Carmen was making sure Maria stayed quiet. I drove back to Riverside with a knot in my stomach. This wasn't just about Maria's silence anymore. It was about a scared 22-year-old protecting her family the only way she knew how. By disappearing. That evening, I found a note in Maria's cell during rounds. It was longer this time. "Officer Torres, please stop asking about me. It's safer if nobody pays attention. For everyone. I just want to do my time and get out. My little sister is 14. That's all that matters. Thank you for being kind, but please forget about me." I stood outside her cell, reading those words over and over. Maria was watching me from her bunk, her eyes pleading. Should I respect her wishes? Could I live with myself if I did? I folded the note and looked at her. "I can't forget about you, Maria. And I won't." Her expression crumbled. She shook her head frantically, pointing to the note. "I know you're scared. I know you think silence keeps your sister safe. But this isn't living. This is just surviving. And you deserve more than that." Maria buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. She was crying but still not a sound. I made a decision that night. A decision that could cost me my job, but I couldn't stand by and do nothing. The next morning, I went back to Warden Marshall with Maria's original statement and my observations. I laid it all out. The connection to Carmen Vega. The threats. The timeline of Maria's silence. Marshall listened, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. This is serious, Torres. If you're right, we have a major security issue. If you're wrong, you've violated protocol by accessing sealed records and making accusations without evidence. I know, ma'am. Why are you risking your career for one inmate? I thought about my answer carefully. Because 3 years ago, I became a CO because I wanted to believe the system could work. That justice could mean something. But if we can't protect someone like Maria, then what are we doing here? Marshall studied me. Then she picked up her phone. Get me the gang intelligence unit and pull Carmen Vega's phone logs and visitor records for the past 6 months. What happened next moved faster than I expected. The intelligence unit had been building a case against the Riverside Prison operations. Carmen had been on their radar, but they needed evidence. Maria's case gave them the connection they needed. Carmen and 3 other inmates were moved to segregation pending investigation. Maria was placed in protective custody. Through it all, she still didn't speak. I visited her in her new cell. It was quieter there, away from general population. She was sitting on her bunk, clutching the notebook I'd given her. You're safe now, I said. Carmen can't hurt you or your sister. Maria looked at me, tears streaming down her face. She opened the notebook and wrote something, then held it up to the bars. What about Diego? He gets out in 6 years. He'll come for her. My heart sank. Of course. Protective custody solved the immediate problem, but Maria was playing a longer game. As long as Diego was out there with his connections, her sister would never be safe. Let me make some calls, I said. I contacted the DA's office. Explained the situation. At first, they weren't interested in reopening a closed case. But when I mentioned Maria might be willing to testify about Diego's connections to the Serena's drug operation, they listened. It took 3 weeks of negotiations. The DA wanted Maria's full cooperation. In exchange, Diego's case would be reopened with new charges. More importantly, Maria's sister and mother would be relocated through witness protection. I sat across from Maria in the interview room. Dr. Patel was there too. The DA's representative had just left. It's your choice, I said. No one can force you. But if you testify, your sister gets a new life. A safe life. And Diego goes away for a long time. Maria stared at the table. Her hands were shaking. She picked up the pen Dr. Patel had provided and wrote in shaky letters. If I talk, I betray everything I've done to protect her. 6 months of hell. For nothing. No, I said firmly. 6 months of protecting her until you found another way. That's not nothing. That's everything. Dr. Patel leaned forward. Maria, your silence has been your armor. But armor can also be a cage. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let people hear our voice. Maria's hand hovered over the paper. Then she wrote one word. Scared. I know, I said. I'd be scared too. But you won't be alone. We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. Then Maria picked up the pen again. Her handwriting was stronger this time. When does my sister leave? They can move her and your mother within 48 hours. Maria closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then she opened them and looked directly at me. Her lips moved. No sound came out at first. She tried again, her voice rusty and broken from months of disuse. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. It was barely audible, but it was there. Her voice. After 6 months of silence, Maria Rodriguez had decided to speak. I felt tears in my own eyes. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly. The deposition took 4 hours. Maria's voice got stronger as she went, telling the DA everything about Diego's operation, Carmen's threats, the network that had controlled her through fear. It was painful to watch but also powerful. With every word she was taking back her power. Diego Mendoza was charged with additional crimes based on Maria's testimony. His sentence was extended to 25 years. Carmen Vega and her associates faced additional charges for witness intimidation and continued criminal enterprise. Maria's sister, Sofia, the same name as my cousin, I noted, and her mother were relocated to another state with new identities. They were safe. But the story didn't end there. Maria still had 3 more years to serve. She was kept in protective custody for her own safety. At first, I thought she might retreat back into silence. The trial had been traumatic. Testifying against Diego and exposing Carmen's operation had made her a target. But Maria surprised me. She started speaking more. Not a lot at first, just a few words here and there. She thanked the officers who brought her meals. She said good morning during count. Small steps. Dr. Patel started regular sessions with her, working through the trauma. I checked in on her whenever I could, though I tried not to hover. Maria needed to find her own strength. 3 months after the trial, I got a note slipped under my office door. I opened it, recognizing Maria's handwriting immediately. Officer Torres, I'm taking my GED test next month. I've been studying. I want to go to college when I get out. Maybe become a social worker. Help other people who feel voiceless. Thank you for teaching me that silence isn't always safety. Sometimes speaking up is the only way to truly be free. Maria. I sat at my desk, reading those words over and over. This was why I'd become a correctional officer. Not for moments like this exactly, I never could have predicted Maria's story. But for the belief that people could change, that the system could work if we cared enough to make it work. A few weeks later, I was doing evening rounds when I passed Maria's cell. She was at her small desk, books spread out around her, studying under the harsh fluorescent light. She looked up when she heard my footsteps. Evening, Officer Torres, she said. Her voice was still soft, but it was steady. Evening, Maria. How's the studying going? Good. Math is hard, but I'm getting it. She smiled slightly. It was the first time I'd seen her smile. I'm going to pass. I know you will. As I continued my rounds, I thought about what Dr. Patel had told me months ago. Be careful. Don't get too invested. Some people don't want to be saved. She'd been wrong at least partly. Maria didn't need saving. She'd been saving herself all along in the only way she knew how. All she needed was someone to believe in her enough to show her another path. Someone to prove that her voice mattered. The system had failed Maria in a lot of ways. The police hadn't protected her family from gang retaliation. The courts hadn't seen through Diego's manipulation. The prison had almost missed the threats happening right under our noses. But in the end, because a few people refused to give up, Maria found her way back to herself. I think about her often even now. About how easy it would have been to dismiss her as just another difficult inmate. About how Henderson had called her a nut job that first day. About how close we came to letting her disappear completely. Last month, I got word that Maria passed her GED with flying colors. She's applying to college programs that accept incarcerated students. Her sister, now 15, is thriving in her new school under her new name. They write letters, carefully screened and forwarded through the Witness Protection Program. Maria talks now. Not constantly, she's still quiet by nature. But she speaks up in her classes. She advocates for other inmates who struggle to advocate for themselves. She found her voice and now she's using it. The day before I sat down to record this story, I stopped by Maria's cell during evening rounds. She was writing in a journal, a new one nicer than the notebook I'd given her all those months ago. What are you working on? I asked. She looked up and I saw something different in her eyes. Not fear. Not shame. Something that looked like hope. I'm writing my story, she said. Dr. Patel said it might help other women who've been through similar things. Women who think silence is their only option. That's incredible, Maria. I'm calling it Finding My Voice. She paused, then added, I'm dedicating it to you, Officer Torres. You listened even when I couldn't speak. That made all the difference. I had to blink back tears. You did the hard work. You found the courage. You helped me find it. You and Dr. Patel and the DA who actually listened. But mostly you. You treated me like a person when everyone else had given up. Walking away from her cell that evening, I felt something I don't always feel in this job. Pride. Not in myself but in Maria. In her resilience. In her strength to break her own silence when it mattered most. There are moments in this job that remind you why you started. Moments that cut through the bureaucracy and the frustration and the harsh realities of the prison system. Maria's voice, speaking clearly and firmly after 6 months of silence, was one of those moments. She taught me something important. Sometimes silence isn't peaceful, it's a prison within a prison. And sometimes the bravest thing someone can do is make a sound. This story stays with me. When I'm having a rough day, when I'm questioning whether any of this matters, I think about Maria Rodriguez. I think about how a voice can be lost and found. How speaking up, even when it's terrifying, can change everything. If this story touched you, I hope you'll like and subscribe to this channel. I share stories from C Block because I believe they matter. These women, they're daughters, sisters, mothers. They've made mistakes, yes, but they're still human. They still deserve to be seen and heard. Next week, I'll tell you about an inmate who saved my life during a riot. It's a story about loyalty, redemption, and the surprising places you find heroes. You won't want to miss it. Maria still has 2 years left on her sentence. But she's not the same woman who arrived at Riverside 6 months into her silence. She's stronger now. Her voice is her own again. And every time I hear her say, "Good morning, Officer Torres," during count, I'm reminded why I do this job. For moments like that. 4 voices that deserve to be heard.